Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be working on my mini bonsai. I've grown these over the summer in this tray of sand and it worked really well. I haven't lost a tree yet. There is a wide variety of trees here and many of them need different overwintering requirements. So far I've been keeping them all in the greenhouse here, keeping them above freezing. I place them in front of the heater at night so they stay warm, they don't go below freezing. So some of them, like this lantana, need a cool period in winter but not below freezing. Other trees, like my little thuja seedling here, can take a good cold hardy winter. And other trees are more tropical, like my Melina back there, or parrot's beak. Many of the jades can take a cool winter but not below freezing. So today I'm going to tidy up all the trees, prune them, fix up the moss, and put them away for the winter. I'm going to start over here to the left-hand side with this tray of trees. There's 3 kumquat plantings and a Japanese maple. For these trees, I'm going to prune down the height of them and I'm going to remove the moss on top of the soil so I can properly water them. I'm going to start with the Japanese maple, so I'll take the kumquats away. I don't have this growing in a tray of sand, but I do have a tray underneath that collects water that keeps the trees well watered at all times. You can see the Japanese maple has grown tall, long and spindly. So today I'm going to prune it back. So let's just focus in on the trunk line here from about here down and make the decision on where to prune it back to. Here is a look at the trunk line. So it comes up and it has a slight curve at the base. And there looks like there might be an insect or something there. I think it was some scale. Definitely some black spots on it for scale insects. So the trunk comes up and then you can see it goes straight here and the internodes get longer and longer as you go up the tree. So I'm going to prune it off quite short, and I think just above this internode, about halfway between the nodes, is the best place to cut it. So here I go. Right through here. Like that. Here is a look at the tree now. So I've got lots of buds all around this area. So if these top ones grow with too much vigor, I can prune it off shorter down to these ones. So I'll see how it grows in spring. I will be repotting it in spring, reducing the roots, which will help control that internode length on top. I'm going to remove some of these leaves that are kind of lost their fall colors. They're just hanging out for no reason. This one too. And I'll leave the 2 nice ones on top. And then I'm going to remove the moss so I can see the surface of the soil to do a proper watering when I go to water them. So I can see what's going on with the soil. This moss is too thick. I've never repotted this seedling. It was given to me by a Toronto club member at the spring show this year. So it grew really, really well over the summer. And I believe this was a cutting or it was grown from seed. I'm not sure now. I think it was a cutting. So I keep it above freezing. So this will go into the basement where it'll stay above freezing for the winter. And it'll have some light, but not bright light. So there, the surface is cleaned up. You can see there's another bend to the trunk down lower. So it'll be quite a twisty little maple eventually. Here is a final look at the maple after the first growing season, and I'll be sure to update this tree as it progresses in the future. The next tree I'll be pruning up is this dwarf kumquat tree. I'll be pruning it down in height, so let's zoom in and find a point to cut the tree at. I did prune this tree in spring, and I believe I repotted these ones into these little plastic pots. So you can see, here's where I pruned it right here, and a new leader is growing up nice and strong. So I do want to keep part of that new leader. So if I'm looking at the front of the tree, this would make a really nice front with the branches going left and right, my leader coming up, and the scar hidden at the back. Now I'm wondering, is that too high for the tree? It is getting quite tall. So I think, I'll do my first cut right here, like that. Then I'll want to prune these lower branches. So right now I have like basically opposite branches here. Actually, I've got the back one, the left one, the right one, and another one. They're all kind of close to the same area, which is okay if it's a small tree because they aren't exactly opposite each other. But you can see if I grew this into a larger tree, they would look like they are exactly opposite each other. So I think I want to clean that structure up. So my lowest branch is this back one. So my next branch should be higher up, and it would be one coming out front. So this is the higher branch, so I'll prune off this one. So that's got a back branch, a left branch, a right branch. Up here, I've got, again, two opposite branches. I think I want the one coming out front, so I'll prune off this one, like that. That cleans up the structure. I'll take this one leaf off here. It's a little funny, this apex looks a bit parallel to this branch, but what I'll do is I'll prune this branch shorter, like that. I'm always pruning to an outward facing leaf, so I can prune this one off here. And this one here. And the back one to here. So really reducing this tree back. So all that remains now is to peel the moss off from the soil. So off comes the moss. And this one has been repotted. All these kumquats I repotted. I root pruned them and repotted them. So if you look at the playlist in the description of this video, you will see the playlist and you can see these trees being root pruned and repotted to see how much I took off and still have the trees live. So there it is. It looks like it's getting a bit of flare at the base of the tree, which is good. Here is an overall look at the first kumquat. It's fairly tall, it's the height of my hand. It's getting quite tall. I may in future reduce it back. I could even do it now, but I think I'll leave it tall as it is. Here is a look at the second kumquat. And it looks like I pruned this one quite a bit shorter than the other one. So I'm going to begin by removing the moss at the base of the tree just to see how much trunk I have there. All right, here I go, removing the moss. It's a big ball of moss. Like that. So there is the base of my tree. It's looking very nice. So let's prune the tree back to size now. I focused in on the base of the tree, so you can see in the first pruning I pruned it here, here. This side branch grew as a new leader, so I'm going to shorten that. And where do I go? I have an outward facing leaf down here, and I have one here. I think in this case, because it's so thick and vigorous, I'm going to go off to that first leaf. So down quite low. So here I go with my first cut, like that. There's an insect flying around there. Go away. got him. So I have, the main trunk comes up. This is a vertical extension, which I like, and it divides into two up here, which is also very nice. And then I have a strong branch coming off here, and a sort of a double branch here. This one runs parallel with the trunk line, so I've got to take this one off, so it's coming off. These trees are grown from seeds, by the way, and the seeds came from a very famous Japanese garden. So the one that comes up here, I have opposite branches here, so I've got like the trunk dividing into three. It's better to have it to divide into two. So if I keep this thick branch, then I should remove the thin one. If I keep the thin one, I should remove the thick one. To get taper, I'm always looking for thick to thin. So logically, I would pick the thin one to keep because it has a bit of branching, it's thinner, and remove the thick one. So that's what I'll do. So I will come in with my pruners and just remove that whole thing. Like that. I will trim these new shoots back to leaves that are fanning outwards. So I think I'll just take the tip off there. The one out the back here, it's kind of going a strange direction, so I better prune it off short to here so it extends out this direction. And then up top, I need to sort these out. So I'll prune off this leaf on the inside here. So you can see the trunk comes up, divides into two. One is taller than the other, and I like that when you divide, keeping one stronger than the other. So I'm going to prune this one back fairly hard to here. Now I'll go one more up to here. And this one I'm just going to let grow. I will take off this large leaf here. It's an older leaf, and this lower leaf down here, and this one. They're just old leaves. So that has got this kumquat pruned up. Again, this tree is fairly tall, but they don't have really, really tiny leaves. They're sort of small leaves. So I think this size is a nice size to develop, a branch structure and a canopy. I think if I prune them back too small, you'll just get a little thick stick with a few branches, and it won't really look like a nice tree in the end. So on to the third and final kumquat. Here is a look at the last of the kumquats. Now, I've got 3 trunks growing here. I can't remember if I threw all the last of the seedlings in one pot or if it's a multi-trunk clump style tree. Let's start by removing the moss. Okay, off comes the moss. Moss can come off the trunk too. Okay, now is it one tree or a clump? I think it's a clump of 3 trees planted very close at the base. So I will leave it like that. I'll style it as a clump tree today. I am going to pull off some of these yellow leaves. I think they'll just come off easily. Yeah. These are older leaves that have done their job, and the tree's kind of outgrown them, which is always nice to see. Okay, let's begin pruning now. So I've got 3 trunks in here. I've got the thickest one here, and then 2 smaller ones out the back, which are almost the same size. So I've already pruned my thickest trunk here, and then it divided, grew another branch up here, a new leader here. So I'm going to prune the new leader back to a leaf that's fanning outwards. There's one way up here that's a nice direction, but I think that's getting too tall. There's a few little white dots on the leaves, the underside. I don't know if it's dust or insects. I'm definitely going to have to spray the trees with soap and water before I bring them inside. Could be scale insects, juvenile scale insects. So as far as pruning, I've got my thicker one, so I've got to pick the point. So I'll prune it off here, that one leaf that's facing a really good direction. So that removes the top of the tree, like that. And then the other shorter trunk, well, this leaf's a good direction, so I'll just prune the tip off. Not a great difference in height of these two trunks, but there is some difference. I'm going to prune off these older leaves. They would have gone yellow eventually and fallen off, but I'm just going to clean out the structure a bit so I can see what's going on. So there is a third branch growing out the back here that I didn't see. So you can see it in here, a little branch. And if I keep it like this clump style, I don't want branches growing in towards each other. So in this case, am I going to remove it? Yes. No sense creating problems, future problems with the trees. Okay, so that's got the main tree pruned up. Next I'll start on this slanting one here. There is a bit of scale on it. So definitely these trees need spraying with the soap and water. So this one, it comes up, it divides into two here. I'll just clean out this older leaf here. And this one. And this one and this one. Yeah, there's a little scale blister on that one too. So there's that division. So I'm going to prune this one to an outward facing leaf here, taking the top off, and this one to a leaf here. So they're fanning out. The new branches that grow in will be fanning out. They'll go the same direction as the leaves. I'll remove this leaf from the inside here just to get some extra light to the tree. And then I'm coming around to this back little trunk line. And again here I have a branch growing the inside between the trees I'm going to remove. Unless I wanted to make that the leader, but it's too straight. I don't. This one kind of fans out nicely. And then on this one I have a nice outward facing leaf here, which is quite short, but it's good because it is the skinniest trunk. So there's what I'm left with. If I wanted to prune the main leader down, I would have to go down to here and then the branch would grow out to the side. I'm going to take out this leaf on the inside here. And I think I'll leave it at that. Remove this old leaf. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Again, you know, not a really short tree, but I think it's a good size to develop it into the future. I'll get the tree sprayed down with the soap and water now. Spray the soil. And I'll let that soak in for a few minutes and then rinse them down thoroughly. All right, it's time to rinse off the trees, so here I go. I think that's good. I'll get the trees back on their tray. Like that. And they're ready to go into the basement for the winter. My next tree is my winter jasmine. And I've had some growth on this tree in the past, and I let it grow long like this, then I prune it back, and then nothing grows on those shoots again. So I've left this one grow over the summer. It's the only one of these shoots that's grown. So if I prune it back, I'm afraid that this one will just go dormant, and then it'll send up another single new shoot. So I haven't figured out these winter jasmines yet. I have been keeping this tree cool over the winter in the basement, so it's basically dormant. And then I expected in spring when I bring it out that I get all this new growth on it, because it's in a fairly large pot for the size of the tree. But this is how it's grown, one new shoot and the rest have just gone dormant. Now there does look like there are buds at the base of each leaf, so maybe it's just a matter of patience. I can't, grow this new shoot forever. So again, I'll prune it back to a logical place. There's a leaf that fell off. I'm sure this leaf's going to fall off too. Yeah. There's a node down here. Maybe I'll go a little higher this time to here. So here I go with my cut. Taking that off. And I'll see what happens. Maybe it's just a matter of getting the root system stronger before the upper growth starts growing with vigor. It was newly repotted in spring, so we'll see what happens this spring, if I get good growth, or if it's the same, I just get one shoot coming off. It'll be interesting to see. So that one's ready to go into the basement for the winter. Next, I'm going to begin working on this tray of trees. Should be quite exciting getting them pruned up, get the moss cleaned off, and getting them ready for winter. I never imagined that I would like these little tiny bonsai as much as I do. I'm really excited about developing them into the future, seeing if I can shape them really nicely, keep them miniature. A bit of a challenge, but so far it's been quite easy growing them in this tray of sand. They've done very well for their first year. Over the summer, a layer of moss has grown on top of the sand that I have in this tray. So I want to take all the trees out, strip all the moss off, get it back to just a layer of sand, and then as I work on each tree, I'll put it back in the tray. All right, I'm going to remove all the trees now, and they will be rooted into the sand layer. So it may be a bit of a challenge getting them out. Wow, this lantana really rooted in here. Wow, look at the roots on that. So there's one tree out. I'll set it back here. The next one was my jade here. It's got some roots on here. And I think this was the one grown from a leaf cutting. Yes, it was. Next is my Gollum jade, and that was grown from a leaf cutting also. Here is a Portulacaria afra. It's got some roots sticking down. And this was a little cutting, and this is the small leaf, the Lilliput variety. So you can see you can get very, very tiny leaves on it if you keep it pruned up. Here's some crassulas back here. They've also rooted quite nicely. I had a little tub of moss here that's quite overgrown. Here's my thuja seedling. And I did plant another seed beside it here, and I think this is it growing here, I believe. So yeah, there's the thuja. Here's some more of these jades. These are cuttings off of that giant old jade that Connor got. So really, really small leaves compared to their parent plant. Then here's these mystery seedlings that I'm thinking are maybe privet, but I'm not sure. It was in a burning bush plant pot. There's a bunch of seeds that I think a mouse put in there. So it's either burning bush or privet, and I'm not sure. Could be either. So yeah, it's doing well though. Here is my parrot's beak or melina. That rooted well into the sand. Now this one's not liking the cool temperatures out here in the greenhouse. It's losing some leaves. There's an insect on it. Got him. Yeah, so it needs to come into a warmer environment. I don't want to keep this one cold over the winter. So I may have to put this in a separate tray of sand. Then I have another Lilliput forest of these Portulacaria back here. So this one was cleaned up fairly recently because I had it as an accent plant in one of the fall shows. So it's looking quite decent. Yeah, it's looking quite decent, that. Here is my dwarf Hinoki cypress. It's doing all right. I think it could use a little pruning. Some of these shoots up top here are getting a little vigorous compared to the ones down lower, so a bit of balancing will help that. I've got a cutting here from my pink pixie bougainvillea that's surviving but not doing really well. I've got another planting of these Lilliput jades. I just stuck all the cuttings in a pot, the leftover cuttings, when I trimmed the others up. I was hoping to give a lot of these plants away at the last KW Bonsai Society meeting, but the day before the meeting I got the flu and I was feeling really bad for 2 days. So I'm stuck with a lot of these plants, including all the jades I have in the greenhouse here, which I have to find a home for because I can't keep this greenhouse above freezing for much longer. It's just too hard. Here's another jade. It's got a bit of dieback on it, and that may be from the cold or maybe just a natural shedding of some of the weaker branches. But it certainly should be moved into a more stable environment. Here is my Arizona cypress. Almost forgot what it was called for a second. Wow, is it ever rooted into the sand? Oh my goodness, what an aggressive root system. Wow, look at that. So that needs a bit of fixing up. It also needs pruning. You can see how vigorous it is on top and not so much down below. So I got to prune all this, thin it out. I want to eventually get some branch layers in here. So that will be coming. I've got this pot full of grass here. I pruned it last time. I just shaved it off really close and that's all gone yellow and died. And then this is new growth over the last bit of summer. So again, I'll prune that back. And then I have another jade back here, which is also rooted into the sand. It's also lost a few of these weaker leaves. I think it's just the natural growth. I think the older branches are dying off and ones that are shaded out in favor of more vigorous ones. And the older leaves are falling off. But it definitely could be kept a little warmer in the basement, that's for sure. So there's a weed back here. I'll pull that out. Wow, look at the roots on the weed. Holy, they're very, very long. That can be checked. Now there's another cutting here. What is this? I have no idea what this is. It's a cutting with no roots. Well, I'm going to check it. And then let's see if this pink pixie has any roots. If it doesn't, I'm just going to throw it out. And I guess it has a few roots in the bottom. Maybe. We'll put that in the maybe section. Okay, and then I've got the remnants of a rat-tailed jade back here, which I don't need. I have lots of those on the go, so this one's going to get chucked because they smell bad. Now I can clean up, oh, there's a few stones here that are supposed to be with my Arizona cypress. Now I can clean up my tray of sand, so let's do that next. Okay, let's just see if I can pull all this moss off. I could just dump the whole tray of sand and refill it. Sand is not expensive. You can see there's some roots down here from something. It could be from a weed. I think I better just dump it. There's all kinds of roots in here, and I'm afraid that some of them might be weeds, and I'll just get more problems in the future. So I'm just going to dump this and fill it up with fresh sand. I'm glad I did dump out that sand. It was just full of roots, and a lot of them were weeds. So this tray has a crack in the bottom here that lets water drain out. So it holds moisture in really well, but if you fill it up, it does eventually drain. So it's not like the plants are swimming in water. I've got my tray filled with sand once again. So I'll just give it a water to level the sand off. So here I go. You can see the tray is filling with water. And that should drain out. I'll just shake it around. Okay, that sand is nice and level now. So I'll just put the tray aside, let it drain. The sun is beginning to set, so it's getting quite cold in the greenhouse here. I'm going to begin with the tropical trees, ones that need to go into the plant room to stay warm for the winter. So the first tree I'll work on is my Melina, or parrot's beak, and I got this tree from Kale. Here is a look at the Melina. I pruned this up, but I've never repotted it. This is the way it came, and these were gifts that Kale and Jenna gave away at their wedding. So it's kind of a special tree. So let's get it out of the pot, get it root pruned, repotted, and then I'll bring it into the warmth of the plant room, and it should start to grow with vigor once again. So I'm going to begin by pruning off all the roots sticking out the bottom of the pot. Otherwise, it would be very hard to get it out of the pot. And this is a fairly small leafed plant, so I'm going to keep it as a small mini bonsai, if possible. Okay, out of the pot it comes. I'll just loosen the pot up first. Give a slight pull, and there it goes. So it looks like it was planted in either Akadama or Kanuma, some exotic soil. So I will rake out the root system. Try and get them sorted out. You can see they were circling around the bottom of the pot. And it looks like it was a cutting. You can see where it was cut off here, and these are all new roots that have grown in on the tree. They're wound around like a spring, these roots. All right, let's go with the root pruning. So you can see
because this was a cutting, it's kind of swollen at the base, which is quite normal. I've got a root going straight down here. I'm going to prune that away. And any plant that grows easily from cuttings like these trees, you can be quite severe on the roots. With the proper aftercare, they will survive. This one's going to come off here. So it's almost like starting another cutting. These ones are going too far down. So I'm getting there. I think I can prune this one off a little more. There and here. So that creates kind of a flat root base on the bottom. This one's sticking up, but I'm going to leave it. I think that's a good root pruning for now. I have a selection of pots here. They're all made by Sophie from Cambridge, Ontario. And they're all beautiful pots, all with nice glazes on them. So this one has kind of a bluish glaze over a tan color. It's really, really nice. This one is more of a speckled tan glaze. It's very nice too. And the other one is a larger pot, and it's got kind of almost a crackled greenish glaze on it. Again, very nice. Let's just see what would look best with the tree. Here is what the tree would look like in the green pot. It suits it quite nicely at its present size, but if I reduce the tree, maybe it would look too large. Here's the bluish tan pot, a little smaller pot. That still looks good. It's probably a better size for the root base. And then the third pot may be too small. It would fit the root base in. I think if I were to grow it in this, I would have to reduce the top of the tree back quite a bit. So as far as color, there's that color, there's the green, and the bluish one. I'm leaning towards the small pot. The small pot with a bit of height reduction. I think that's what I'll go with. I'll mist the roots on the Melina while I'm getting the pot ready, just so they don't dry out. Like that. And I'll get a drainage screen in the bottom of the pot. You can see this pot is very, very shallow. So it's not going to hold a whole lot of soil. But I think it's enough to keep the tree healthy and alive. Here goes my layer of soil in the bottom of the pot. And I'll have to pick out any big chunks of soil with the tweezers. Maybe some of these chunks of pine bark. Yeah, that'll do, I think. Okay, let's plant the tree now. I may have to trim that one root back a bit. I think I will. Like that. Okay, I may have to mound the soil up a bit in the pot, but I will get it planted. Settling the tree down in the pot. Like that. Add a bit of soil. A bit more soil around this side. That. Get rid of that big pine chunk. Now I know last time instead of soil on top I used sand, but I'm going to use soil like this and sand. So I'll get some sand out now to kind of fill in the spaces, making a finer top dressing to the tree. Okay, I've got some more sand here. So I will add that. I'll move my root rake away. Using my golden spoon that Tom sent me. Thanks, Tom. A little more sand. And I think that'll do it. We'll get the tree watered now. My bottle's on its last legs. Okay, that's got it watered quite nicely. So next I'm going to do some pruning to the top of the tree. If you ever find an old music box in the thrift store, they make great little turntables. You just wind them up and you get music and a turntable at the same time. I'm going to get the tree pruned up now. So I'm looking for a nice front of the tree. So the trunk kind of curves off here, then goes straight. So it's nice to show that kind of interesting root base. So this could be the front, or maybe the reverse side over here. I think this is the better front because then I don't have any branches sticking out towards the viewer. They're more back branches. So I'll pick this as the front and I'm going to prune it. I've got a couple of branches down low here, so I can definitely prune off this long vertical section here, so I will. So I'm going to come in here and cut it off, leaving a bit of a stub. To right here. Here I go. Like that. That would make a nice cutting, but I have enough trees. Now this straight branch out the side, I have some branches down close to the trunk, so I'm going to prune it back to here. Like that. And I don't think I need to do any more pruning cuts. I've got a small branch coming out the back here, which is nice. And we'll just see how it develops from here. So here is my little Melina. Maybe we'll call it Thumbelina. It's very small. It's about 3 fingers high. Ready to grow. So I'll bring this into the plant room for tonight, keeping it warm. And it should start growing probably within a couple of days. Now I noticed I did have a root hanging out this one side here. I'll try and tuck that in. It's good to keep that root alive because it's about the only root on that side of the tree. So I'll tuck it into the soil here. Like that, and then I'll just put the soil around it like that. And that should be good. Outside here, the sun has set. It was a beautiful sunny day today, but it's getting really, really cold now. It's going down to 3 degrees below freezing tonight. So I got 6 trees done today out of all of these ones that I still have to do. And some of these will take quite a while, pruning them up to look really good. So I don't want to rush it, so I'll continue this in part 2 of this series. Before we leave part 1 of this series, let's head into the plant room
and I'll show you some updates to some of the trees that I've pruned up recently.
Here's a quick update to the garage for the Porsche. So Julian has been working away today, screwing down the support legs to these cement blocks all the way around. So that should hold the garage firmly to the ground. We'll bury those cement blocks. So it's coming along nicely, this garage. The Porsche is still waiting outside to come in. I'm in the plant room now, and it's definitely dark outside. It takes a while to get the camera adjusted to the humidity. I have to put it in a plastic bag, bring it into the room here, warm it up. So here's the plant room at night. Everything's looking good. So let's start the updates with my powder puff tree that I pruned back recently. And if we look at the tree, right here you can see there's all kinds of new shoots all over the tree. So it's continued to grow really, really well. You can see all the new bright green growth on it. So they definitely take to pruning well, that's for sure. So down here, it wasn't hard to find space for the little Thumbelina tree right here. Beside it are the two ficus that I potted up recently. My tiger bark ficus here, and you can see it's got shoots coming out all over on it. So that's exciting. And if you look down underneath the pot, you can see two roots, one growing to the right and one growing to the left. So the roots are definitely growing in the pot. Behind that is my Ficus microcarpa, and it also has roots growing out the bottom of the pot, and it's got new growth on it. So yeah, they seem to have survived the repotting quite nicely and the drastic reduction. I recently hard pruned my Frankenficus, my Ficus benjamina, and since I brought it back in the plant room, the shoots that were on it are really growing well. They're kind of taking off. Very vigorous. There have been some new buds pop out on the tree, but nothing dramatic yet. So it's still too early to tell how the hard pruning has gone on that tree, but we'll keep you updated with its progress. Over here at the Toprom temple, the roots continue to grow and grip the temple. You can see the ones growing underneath the face here are continuing to wrap around, hugging the cement. It's going to look quite nice in the future, and all the aerial roots are doing really well also. The roots that are escaping the pot here, you can see down here, it's growing across the lip of the pot and into the hibiscus tree pot. So yeah, the roots are really spreading, and same with the ones that are growing over this side of the pot. They're growing over the edge of the pot, and this one has grown right out front here across the wooden bench. So yeah, very vigorous aerial roots on the Toprom temple, these Ficus natalensis. The aerial roots are also doing well, growing downside along the temple here. Yeah, so good progress on the Toprom temple. My bloodwood tree here has lost a lot of leaves, but the leaves that are green on it still seem to be doing well. So it's still a wait and see for this tree, but I think it has a high hope of surviving the severe root pruning, repotting. So I think all will be well with that tree. Over here behind the rubber tree forest is my Chinese village penjing. And it's been growing really well. You can see how it's greened up and filled in. Yeah, looking really good and healthy. Nice to see. Over here in the corner I have my baobab trees. Two of them have totally lost their leaves. I've stopped watering them. The largest one here still has a canopy of leaves on it, but they're starting to go yellow and fall off now. So once they fall off, I can take them out of the sunlight here, place them up on top of these benches, and store them there for the winter. They won't need light once they lose their leaves, so that'll free up a bit of bench space for the trees that are on the floor still. In my Socotra Island desert rose forest, a lot of the trees have lost their leaves. I've also stopped watering them. The one in the corner here is still very, very green. I'm not sure why that one's green. The aloe here is sent out a flower stalk, so you can see the flowers coming on the end of that. My Ficus rumphii down here, it's sending out all kinds of aerial roots. I don't know if I can show you that. Down in here, off of the trunks, there's all kinds of aerial roots dropping, which is exciting. That's what I wanted on those lower branches. My olive tree here, I recently repotted that and warmed it up in the greenhouse here, and it's got a lot of new shoots coming out on it now. So once it grows a bit, I'm going to cool it back down for the winter. I just want to get some roots established in the pot first, and then I'll give it a cool period, and hopefully in spring it'll wake up once again and grow with vigor. My original root over temple planting, the tree is now growing with a lot of vigor up top. It's really filling in once again. So it's looking really, really nice. I'm happy about that. I think it'll be a really nice tree now that I've sorted the structure out. Yeah, I hope I get the same kind of growth on my Frankenficus. I hope it just shoots out everywhere. That would be awesome. My $50 challenge tree is also looking really healthy, filling out once again after the last pruning. This is a Mingarelia. The second tree that I pruned back severely has got some great new branches on it in the perfect places. There are some suckers that came up from the roots down here, but those can be pruned off. But I did get branches coming out up higher on the trunk line, so that was a successful pruning. So that's it for the updates in the plant room. So far, all the trees are growing well. I haven't had insect problems yet, but I'm keeping my eyes out. We had a sunny day today, so all these trees up front got all kinds of natural sunlight. My ficus cutting of a cutting down here will need pruning soon. It's growing with a ton of vigor, which is also good to see. And so is the fiddle leaf fig beside it. It's also looking really good.
That's all for part 1 of this mini bonsai series. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.